Hello, Gary. That was a great class. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to introduce something that I think might help you um, with the scales and just being more aware of like what's going on the fretboard. Um, I don't know if you remember what we did in Watertown when we were doing the circle of fifths. Uh, we did we did arpeggios. The arpeggios were like the basic breakdown of the chords. So instead of doing like a C chord, we did, and then we went to G, and then we went to D, and then we went to A, and then we went to E, and then we went to B. All right. The idea was to just um, be able to identify the different positions along the fretboard. The other thing too is when you're doing your, and also know like this the different the technical things that are going on with chord structure. So it goes with this particular exercise. If we break up the C chord, it's a triad and it consists of the C, E, and G. And the C, E, and G broken down would be the C would be the root, that's one. The third note of the scale is E, and the fifth note of the scale is G. So you take the fifth note, and that will be the next key that you're going to play your arpeggio in. And that's your G chord, right? So you went from the C major chord to a G major chord, right? So what makes up the G major chord is G, B, and D. G would be your first note, B would be the third note of the scale, and D would be the fifth note of the G major scale. So the D, that fifth note, is going to start the next key for the arpeggio, and that would be a D major chord. So you'll do the arpeggio for the D major. All right, so that's a D, F sharp, and A. D being the first note of the D major scale, right? And the F sharp, third note, and then the A would be the fifth note, and so on. So the A is going to be the next chord arpeggio that you're going to play, right? So that's how we would normally do the circle of fifths. I've cut down the circle of fifths when I showed you guys, because I just wanted to cover a certain area of the guitar, but you can do a lot more, and it will take you right back to the C. I just went up to the seventh fret, which would be E and then B. All right, so and then we go back to the C. So having said that, that's dealing with chord structures or triads. Um, but the way we're going to use the circle of fifths in dealing with what you just learned as far as like scales and things like that, we're going to do the circle of fifths with the scales instead of arpeggios. So we're only going to work with one octave. All right. So keep in mind that when we do these exercises, it's not one key. It's about the shape, right? The shape and of the pattern of those notes. Like you know that the C major scale is 3 5 2 3 5 2 4 5. So you're in doing that pattern of notes, you know that makes a certain shape. So you're going to use that same shape for the G, right? And now you're going to use that same shape for the D. And now you're going to use that same shape for the A. Now you're going to use the same shape for the E. And then you're going to do the same shape for the B. Now what you've done there is you've played like 6 different scales. That's what you've done. You've played the C major scale in 1 octave, the G major scale in 1 octave, the D major scale in 1 octave, and the A major scale in 1 octave. The I don't know if I said D. D major in 1 octave, and then the A major in 1 octave. And then you played the E major in 1 octave, and then you played the B major in 1 octave. All right, so you played different scales, but what you did is you were able to play those scales because you got you're focusing on the shape of the pattern, the shape of the pattern. This is important because what we kind of covered in class as far as the theory is in the manual I mentioned, okay, we're specifically working with the G major scale and everything that goes in that scale, because there's different things that go on that are attached to the scale. There could be many different scales that you could play from the C major scale, set aside from the modes of the C major scale. But once you get all that information for that one key, the C major scale, if you know the shapes of that C major scale and where to do it and everything that's attached with it, if you get familiar with the shapes of the patterns of that one key, wherever you are on the guitar, you'll memorize those shapes, and it will be like you're playing your C major scale here or there. You know, you won't get confused or intimidated or nervous about like where you are in case you have to switch positions, or switch keys. All right, that's it's tricky information, but it's the kind of stuff that we're going to have to cover when we're actually doing the class. But play around with this exercise, and when you're playing around with the exercise, also do this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my fifth. That's my fifth. These are 2 octaves, right? Listen out. Try to make a lot of different observations when you're doing this exercise, because there's a lot of different things in there, just on your own personal observations. But I just did that so you'll know. Okay, that's my fifth. So out of my scale, that's 1. We count the tones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I hit a heavier octave of the fifth. So that's got to be a G. So that means that's a G, right? You could do stuff like that, and when you're doing your G major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's going to be the next place I'm going to do my scale. So that's a D. So the fifth note of the G major chord is a D, right? So you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I have a G. I have an A there, and I have an A up there, right? So you play around with it and make your own little notes. I'm really curious to see what you come up with. Anyway, thank you for a great class, man. You're really making ground. So, contact me if you need to, or leave a comment below, and I'll get back to you. All right, man. Thanks for your hard work. I will see you soon. God bless.